If a murder happens in Manhattan, you hear about it, and it gets reported on, and it's followed up on. You get murdered in East New York, you're lucky if it's even mentioned. No one, not the NYPD, not the city, was prepared for what happened in East New York.
In the shadow of Manhattan's gleaming towers lies a neighborhood with stories that rarely make headlines. Since the 1960s, East New York has been one of the city's most violent areas, a place where lives have been lost, justice often feels out of reach, and scandals are everywhere.
They were financial crimes. Scams led to foreclosures, which led to abandoned buildings, which led to fires and vacant lots.
It was a lot of crime, it was a lot of drugs, it was a lot of abandoned buildings.
People were reluctant to speak with the police. There wasn't that great community relationship.
The problem hasn't been fixed. Everything that led to those crimes are still going on. I'm Stacy Horn, I'm a writer. The name of my book is The Killing Fields of East New York, and I spent several years trying to answer the question, why does East New York have the highest number of unsolved homicides?
My name is William Simon. I'm a former NYPD detective. I worked in the cold case homicide unit, was my last post. I've handled numerous cases in the 7-5 precinct while at that station.
Today, the 75th precinct has a violent crime rate that's 84% higher than New York City as a whole, and 279% higher than the rest of the country.
The 7-5 precinct is one of the largest precincts in New York City. So with that, and with the amount of people that are in this area, you're gonna have a lot of crime.
The neighborhood can be characterized by its staggering number of unsolved murders. The 75th precinct has the highest number of unsolved homicides in New York out of 1,989 murders going back to 1980. About 684 remain unsolved.
Numbers for solving cold cases are pretty grim. A year after a case goes cold, there's a 10% chance that they're going to solve it. 2 years and afterwards, it goes down to less than 1%. And it's not that they're not trying. I mean, in New York, there's thousands of unsolved cases, and how many cold case detectives?
Oh, not that many.
Much of the crime in this neighborhood can be traced back to shady mortgage deals and housing scams that tore the neighborhood apart.
In the late 60s, the early 1970s, they were financial crimes that involved mortgages that were insured by the FHA.
A wave of FHA-backed high-risk mortgages targeted poor Black and Puerto Rican families in East New York, leading to mass foreclosures, abandoned buildings, and a fire epidemic that gutted the neighborhood.
Scams on this program led to foreclosures and thousands of abandoned buildings and vacant lots in East New York that grew throughout the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
These vacant lots and crumbling structures became the stage for countless tragedies.
We're in East New York at the corner of Chestnut and Fulton, and this is the site where Valerie Whitley, who was a junior high school student at Franklin Lane, was strangled to death and murdered. Valerie was found strangled to death in a bathtub, and she was strangled by her own scarf. She had gone to a grocery store and didn't come home. Her parents reported her missing, and then word got out that a body had been found, a body of a young girl had been found in this building, so the parents headed over hoping against hope that it wasn't their daughter, but it was. I mean, this was just what East New York families had to deal with then.
Between 1972 and 1986, the 75th precinct saw roughly 484 killings, earning the neighborhood its nickname. East New York was now openly referred to as the Killing Fields. Among many others, 5-year-old Aurelio Martinez was killed by a stray bullet in 1986 when he was playing with his sister in front of his home. And there was 23-year-old Michael Rivera, who was gunned down the day after Christmas in 1993. The neighborhood even birthed a serial killer, the East New York Zodiac.
We're standing in front of the home of Herberto Seda, who became known as the New York Zodiac Killer. He shot 3 people, only 1 died, but he wrote the New York Post and called himself the Zodiac. He thought he had killed them all, so he said, I've killed 3 people and I'm gonna kill 12 people in all. And this is where they finally found him and arrested him.
By the early 1990s, murders hit an all-time high, reaching more than 100 a year. In 1991, the first murder of the year happened just 40 minutes after midnight. From that point on, someone was killed once or twice a week until summer hit and the pace jumped to nearly 4 murders a week.
Julia Parker was a 17-year-old girl who was born and raised in East New York. And it was July 17, 1991, and she was here with some friends in front of this corner deli. And she was sitting on a car, and they were just going to discuss what they were going to do later that night. And Ashmat Ali, her friend, so he was like heading back into the store, walking backwards, and all of a sudden, he hears the shots in her head. She was hit. And the belief that her family had, and most of the people in the neighborhood had, that she was killed because a friend of hers was killed just a couple of nights before, and she spoke to the police about it. And so they believed that she was killed because she talked to detectives about her friend's murder, and this was to keep her quiet about that. But she was likely killed for other reasons entirely, which Bill can address.
Julia was arrested down in North Carolina. She was caught delivering drugs. And that case down there had ties back up to here, to this neighborhood. But basically, there was no new leads. There are a lot of rumors as to who did the homicide and why it was done. But, you know, all those are unconfirmed rumors. And once again, can't do anything with that.
Today, East New York is a neighborhood in transition, still grappling with crime, but also seeing signs of change.
Going into today, what is the fix?
From a policing standpoint, you have to rebuild that community bond. A community will only be policed as much as they allow it to be policed.
Violence reduction zones, or VRZs, were introduced by the NYPD in 2022 to target areas with historically high violent crime rates, like East New York. In the first 3 months of 2025, the NYPD cited a 50% decline in crime in East New York. While efforts like neighborhood policing have improved relations, historical tensions persist.
Historically, the community and the police has had issues because of how they policed out here, right? Because of the stats, because of the stigma. The way they policed out here has always been with a rough hand. So there's always been a lot of tension between community and police. Over the years, you know, it's gotten a little better because of the workings that has been happening in between community stakeholders like myself and others, and the law enforcement. So it's not as bad as it once was. From personal experience, from having grown up out here, knowing the before, the during, and maybe with the future, it's getting much, much better. It's actually a sense of community where people are looking out for one another now more than ever before. I'm not gonna say it's completely safe because we have 190,000 residents of East New York. And so there's still a lot of unemployment out here. There's still a lot of drugs and access to weaponry.
The problem hasn't been fixed. Everything that led to those crimes are still going on. It's nowhere near as dramatic as it was at the time period that I'm writing about. And the community has done a lot to address the problems.
You got to build that mutual trust, and it can be done. It's not beyond reproach. I mean, the NYPD now is probably the most diverse police department in the entire world.
Today it is much more safer, much more people moving in. It's becoming a little bit more diverse, but it's still a beautiful, heavily populated Black and brown community where people are thriving.